everyone, and welcome to Subtle Asian Book Club. Today we are reading Dial A for Aunties, or this past month we read Dial A for Aunties. I'm Tiffany, and we'll let everyone else introduce themselves.
I'm Alexandra at Twirling Pages.
And we have...
I'm Jesse Q Sutanto, author of Dial A for Aunties.
We're so lucky to have you with us today. So many people love this book. It was a murder mystery that just had us laughing, had us in shock at many points, but overall such a fun read. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and your book, and maybe like introduce something you've been loving to do the past year as a little icebreaker?
Sure. Okay, so I'm Jesse. Obviously, I'm the author of Dial A for Aunties, and I currently live in Indonesia. So I'm calling in from Jakarta, which is the capital of Indonesia, and I live here with my husband and my 2 kids, and I'm so boring. I don't have a hobby or anything because I'm just always like writing or I'm with the kids. So that's me. And Dial A for Aunties is about a young woman who accidentally kills her blind date, which, just happens sometimes. And then she has to get the help from her mom and her aunts to kind of hide the body in the hopes of getting rid of it, while also catering to a billionaire's wedding at a private resort island off the coast of California. That's about.
So
and
if
it
that
sounds
sounds
ridiculous, it's because it is.
It's a very chaotic plotline, but it's just so much fun to read. I think both of us listened to this via audiobook, and we both had a really great time just watching everything unfold. The audiobook narrator does a really great job. So for our first question for you is, what was the research process like when writing this book? Obviously, this is an atypical storyline that people might not witness themselves. Was there anything really difficult, and what was the most rewarding for you?
Okay, so research-wise, I had to kind of, so is this a spoiler? I'm like trying to think if this is going to spoil the book. I think it's okay.
This will be a spoiler chat, so it's okay. I think everyone here has read the book. Our book club members who haven't read the book will be watching after they do.
Yeah.
Okay, so the scene where Maddie, the main character, where she kills the guy and then she has to kind of move his body, I was like, oh, is she gonna be strong enough to like carry him? So I had to have my husband, my poor husband, lie down on the floor, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to like lift you. So I was like really trying to research, like what it would be like carrying a fully grown, like, dead weight of an adult like male, and then I was like, yeah, I can't do it. So then I think in the story I mentioned that like he's pretty slim, and so that's one research which was really ridiculous, and my husband and I were like laughing the entire time. Another thing that I had to do was just kind of look up police procedures, like when they arrive at a scene where there is a dead body. I talked to a lot of people, and then I found out that well, it just really depends on like which where you are, and who is the officer in charge, I guess. Like they have procedures that they're supposed to follow, but then obviously like there's a lot of like human error that goes into it. So then I was really happy, because then that means that I can, like, the characters can get away with this.
Yeah. It sounds very fun. We had a fun question that asked, was your husband worried that you were just practicing?
Yeah. Yeah, he was worried after he finished reading the book, because he was like, oh my God, this is so your family. Like, he was like, if you ever accidentally killed me, I know your family would be like this, and they would totally help you hide my body.
That's so funny. Um, so both Tiffany and I are from the San Gabriel Valley, and we loved reading it as the backdrop of Dial A for Aunties, which is like San Gabriel Valley is a suburban city within Los Angeles. What inspired you to choose this as a setting, and what was your research involved in choosing San Gabriel Valley?
Well, I spent a lot of time in SGV, and I just love the place. I think it's like my favorite part of America, I guess, pretty much, because like you guys have a bit like the best food and the best dim sum. I think it's even better than Hong Kong. Ah, forgive me, anyone watching from Hong Kong. And I didn't really have to do that much research because like I just know so much about it already, and I have so many like close friends who live there. So I think the only research I had to do was just to refresh my memory at like, oh wait, where are all the restaurants? So they're all like based on, you know, actual dim sum restaurants. I just had to kind of look up the street names, but I don't think I ended up putting that in the book anyway. So yeah, it was like revisiting the place in my mind, and I really loved it.
Mhm. I thought it was so fun. I think when I first, like, I think either the second or third page in this book was saying how getting dim sum at 11 a.m. in the SGV was like one of the most difficult things to do, and I
It's
felt that so
impossible.
hard. You're like fighting with all the other Asian aunties and trying to get the best dishes.
Yeah, it's impossible.
Yeah. Were you
So
able
like,
to visit? Oh, sorry.
no,
Were
you
you
go
able
first.
were you able to come back and like visit as like research?
No, because I wrote Ballet for Aunties, and then I think literally like a month later, you know, COVID was like so widespread that countries were beginning to go into lockdowns. So, so yeah, I haven't been in so long. I can't wait to go again.
Hopefully you can go for like book 2, or maybe we'll talk about the Netflix production later, but like research for those.
Yeah, for sure.
So like many people in the chat are saying they love this book, so did we. So we're really curious to know what has been your favorite part about writing Dial A. And if you're watching live, we'd love to hear, maybe like type out what your favorite scene was, maybe your favorite character. So we'd love to know what was your favorite part about writing this book.
So hands down, my favorite part was right after Maddie kills her blind date, and then she comes home, and her mom, like from that point on, it was just so natural. Like that scene was so natural, where the mom was like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna call your, you know, I've already called your aunts," and she's like, "What? Like, why would you call them?" And she's like, "Why wouldn't I?" And then the following like conversation where like you know, the ants were there, and they were like arguing about like fruits, and it was just like it just came so naturally. um and then the chat that the mom had with the blind date and the eggplant. So that's just, yeah, I just had so much fun writing it. I was like giggling as I wrote.
That was hilarious. It just combined all the horrors of online dating with the chaotic
Yeah.
Asian aunties.
Yeah. I definitely loved all the scenes with the aunts because they're I love them. They're so funny.
Do you have any, I don't know if you'll know off the top of your head, but do you have any favorite quotes or favorite, any favorite quotes or moments?
So it was like that particular like chat where the mom said, "Oh, my body is not feeling delicious." You know, I've been like waiting. I feel like I've been waiting my whole life to be able to use that in a book, you know, and it's like, oh, finally I get to use it, because it was actually something when I was a kid. I think I can't remember where we were, but we were in a country where English was the first language, and my dad wasn't feeling well, so then we took him to a doctor, and he doesn't speak English very well at all. And he said to the doctor, like, oh, my body is just really not delicious, like at all. And I still remember as a kid, like the doctor's face, like okay, like, what do you mean, like, not delicious? And and ever since then, I was like, I really need to use this.
Yeah, that is a really good line.
Yeah.
The book proudly introduced both Indonesian and Chinese culture. How did you draw upon your own upbringing and background to create Maddie's character?
Well, sadly, I guess she came so naturally to me. And I just really like, in every scene, I was kind of thinking, okay, how would I react to this? And then how would my parents react to it, after I react? And so it was all just really natural, and there was never really a time that I kind of consciously thought, oh, how would someone from this background react to it? Because I just kind of had to draw from my own personal experience.
Yeah, I found Maddie to be a very relatable main character.
Yeah. Yeah. What's actually really interesting is that I've gotten so many messages from people from different backgrounds, like readers from Indian background, or even from like Trinidad, and from Jewish backgrounds. Like they would be like, oh my God, like how do I relate to this so much? And how come like the aunties are exactly like my aunties? And I was like, okay, that's a really nice surprise.
Yeah.
This was a spoiler, but someone mentioned in the comments that their favorite scene was when the aunties were being held hostage and they were just totally unfazed. I think that has to be one of my favorite scenes too, because I was just like reacting exactly like how Maddie would react, but the aunties were just like, oh, she's so good, she's so smart, she's really taking this hostage thing very well.
Yeah, I just feel like Asian parents often focus on like the weirdest things. I don't know, like oftentimes I would be telling, my parents about like some horrible crime thing that happened in the news, and then they would be like, oh wow, like they managed to like climb so high in the first place. That was so, impressive. And I'm like, they were criminal. What is wrong with you?
I've definitely heard like my aunties saying like, oh, this person got caught trying to commit this crime, and they're like, well, that's what he gets for like committing it in the most dumb way possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same.
They've got different priorities.
So moving a little away from the research questions, we're going to go more into the plot and the characters. And the first question we have is, did you have a favorite character to write?
Yeah, I think I would have to say Big Aunt, because like she's kind of like who I want to be, when I like get to her age. She's just very like consistent, and I just know that if I get stuck in a scene, I'm like, okay, let's like throw in Big Aunt, she'll solve it. Like, what would she do? I feel like I need to get a shirt that's like, what would Big Aunt do?
One thing that I thought was really cool was that you wrote the aunts, like, I guess sometimes you could write like aunt and then their name, but you chose to write like big aunt, second aunt, third aunt, fourth aunt. And that felt really familiar because sometimes you would include like the Mandarin language, like, what is it, Tai, or like, or I forgot, I can't pronounce it. But it just felt so familiar, and I really love that.
Yeah. In my family, that's what we actually call them. Like we We call our big aunt like taku, no, taiku. I know I'm so terrible with, like the pronunciations. And then each like aunt and uncle below that, they kind of have like their own preferred title, but we kind of like go down in like descending order. And it's really interesting actually because like I did get like a couple of comments from non-Asian readers that were like, oh, I don't like the naming system, like I feel like you're not giving enough credit to your readers by like dumbing it down and being like, big aunt, second aunt. And I was like, no, it's just like how the culture is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like personally, I don't have like many aunts in my family, unfortunately, but I know a lot of family friends, and they also like structure it the same, where it's like, oh, like big aunt, and then like number, and so like sometimes like they'll be amongst themselves, and then they'll just be like, and then 6 did this, and then you're like,
Yeah.
That's so funny.
That's like a YA dystopian novel where like everyone gets a number.
Yeah.
But even though it's technically not their name, it somehow feels more personal.
Yeah.
Because like my parents do that. They like sometimes they refer to their siblings as like, oh, fifth sister, or fourth sister, or whatever. Yeah.
So moving away from your favorite character, was there a character that was really challenging to write?
Who's challenging? I always find men a little bit more challenging to write. And I especially found like the blind date really, really difficult to write. Because I was like, oh, like, is what he's saying, creepy enough, or is it too creepy? Is it, like kind of finding that balance and being like, wait, but why would he say that? But then it's like, well, why would any guy say, any stupid thing?
Mm-hmm.
Very relatable.
Yeah.
But some people in the comments are saying how they love the chemistry between Nathan and Maddie, and also I love it too. I remember it was like somewhere early where like we go like flashback into her meeting Nathan, and I was like, swoon, we love this person. Like I already know, like I can see it going down. But do you have any like in real life inspiration for Nathan, or like how he came to be?
Oh my gosh. So this is so funny because like when I first wrote Nathan, he's just I believe he was Taiwanese American. And I kind of just like thought of all of my dream guys back when I was in like college. And then when I was writing the sequel, I was like, oh, I want to set it in England, actually, in Oxford, England. And so then my editor was like, oh, well, then maybe make Nathan like half English so that it makes sense for like book 2 to be set in England. So then we had to change Nathan to be like half English. And that's my husband. He's like half English and half Chinese. And so my husband like is like, oh, he's like completely based on me. And he's telling everyone that Nathan is based on him. And he's really not.
So savage.
Yeah. But it's fine. We'll give that to him.
But honestly, all the Nathans, a lot of scenes in this book are my favorite, but with like Nathan especially, it was just so swoon worthy, and I was like, I would love to see this as a rom-com.
Oh my god!
Especially like, and it's so funny how he's like he knows that by the end he's just like, but cares so much, and we just love that. We love that in a guy.
Yeah. I remember when he first showed up again, like when you find out that no. When in like the earlier flashback scene when she's like, his dream was to open his own hotel or resort, I was like, this is it. This is it again. And then when I found it again, I was like, oh, I've been waiting how many pages for this to happen. Yeah. Really
Yay, I was so happy like that. Yeah. That the romance worked.
yeah.
So the crux of the story obviously is the murder mystery, but we wanted to know what gave you the inspiration to combine the murdery parts of the plot line with just making it a fun family contemporary. Because it'd be very different if it was just solely a thriller. Instead, we have something that's just super chaotic and fun.
Yeah. So I've been wanting to write a book that's like inspired by people in my family for a very long time. But then each time I tried to write it, it was coming out way too close to home, I guess. Like, you know, the drama is like way too real. And I'm like, no, I don't want to write about like the real drama. And so then I had to like trunk it for a really long time. But then one day I was like, oh, well, what if I just lean into, you know, super ridiculous, like throw in a dead body. And then it just like really came together so well. So yeah.
Yeah, I really liked how like you took those two like very, very different things, like a thriller and then a fun contemporary, and mashed it together in this like magical book, because I feel like normally I would stray away from thrillers, but then like reading this, I was like, wow, you know, maybe I could become a thriller person. No, it's just this. Yeah, it was very fun. But we talked about the aunties a little bit earlier, and you mentioned how you really liked Big Aunt, and she was probably like one of my favorites too for the same reasons that you said. But how did you go about like crafting each of the aunts' personalities and like all of their roles and coming together for the family business and all that jazz?
So the only auntie whose personality I knew prior to writing was Big Aunt, because I was just like, okay, you know, like, of course, like Big Aunt is just gonna be like in charge of everyone. And then like, you know, the rest, I had no idea what their personalities were gonna be like until I started writing, and then I was like, oh, and then second aunt is just like, you know, she doesn't get along with Big Aunt, and they have like this rivalry, and I was like, what's her thing? And then I was like, oh, maybe yoga or like Tai Chi. So it all came very naturally while I was writing.
This is such a little Easter egg, but the Tai Chi moments were just so funny because I think you like reference one as like the big watermelon, and I just remember being like in elementary school or middle school, and all of us would just like teach each other Tai Chi based off of what we saw our family do, and then like the big watermelon, and then like was definitely one of them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how they like teach people, right? Like one of my aunts really got into Tai Chi years ago, and she was just always like, come here, like, you know, do this, then you won't be like so anxious or whatever. And then it was like her solution for everything.
Have to be balanced and zen.
Yeah.
Do you know who, like, how you found the inspiration for like third aunt and fourth aunt? Because I feel like fourth aunt is like very particular because she's like, I'm a star kind of energy.
Yeah. So I do actually have an aunt who is very like glamorous, and so fourth aunt is kind of loosely based on her, and so I have never told anyone else like this publicly, but the mom character is actually based more on my dad. Like very yeah, like very you know, like kind of emotionally needy. Because my mom is actually a lot more aloof, and she's like, I'm not like that. And I told her, well, actually, it's based on dad. And she was like, oh my God, I can see it now. And I was like, yeah.
What were the other reactions like when you shared the book with your families? Were they like, oh, this is me, or this is so you?
No, I made sure to really scramble everyone's characteristics so that nobody can like recognize themselves. And I have had people be like, well, who's who? Like, and like even my mom couldn't tell like who was who until I told her like, oh, okay, so like Big Ant is actually based on like this person. She was like, oh my God, yes, she is. So hopefully that like gets me out of trouble with my family.
This isn't a question that we pre-prepared, but I remember a big part of the book was Maddie deciding like, oh, I want to stay in California because there's this curse in our family where all the guys leave. And I thought that was like really fun and interesting and like real to a lot of like Asian families. But like, why did you feel it was like really important for you to include that detail?
The part about like leaving or staying,
Yeah, about like
that's something, yeah, that's something that I went through, and that a lot of my Asian friends and family went through also, because we were educated abroad. I lived in Oxford for a long time, and I married someone from Oxford. So then I had that choice, of like leaving my family in Indonesia, and I did make it. Like we gave Oxford a good go, and then I was like, no, I hate it, and like I really miss my family, and then we moved to Indonesia, and it was really difficult for the first few years because it took a while for my husband to kind of adjust to Indonesia. Because it's so different from England. And so when I wrote this, I really wanted to explore that sense of like basically deciding, like between um, your own kind of ambition and your family's expectations. And then I also wanted to show that, well, actually, sometimes it's better to, be close with your family, because that was actually what my husband and I found. Like now, sometimes I'm like annoyed with my family, and I'm like, this is it. Let's move back to England. And he's like, well, actually, I really like it here. I don't want to go back. Like, it's like I never want to go back to England.
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that was like a part of the story that I really, really related to because I know a lot of my friends, and a lot of like myself. I'm like, oh, like maybe I should stay like closer to home, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, like want to go travel or explore or whatever. And so like
Yeah.
seeing it like shown in a book was really, really refreshing to read.
Yeah. And I really feel like a lot of Western media, like it kind of shows leaving as like something really positive, and like, oh, you're gonna go and find yourself, or gain independence and everything, which is really great. But I also wanted to show like the other side of, well, but if you stayed, you could also find yourself, and still be like close to your family. So yeah.
That works out.
Yeah.
Do you want to answer the how Maddie's family background helped shape your character? I know we touched upon that a little bit.
Okay. How does Maddie's family's background help to shape her character?
So this is actually a really interesting question, because this is yet another thing that I really wanted to explore. So Maddie's background, like being Asian, and having all of like this expectation like placed on her, has made her a lot more passive as a character, like very obedient and stuff. And actually, I also got like a couple of comments from white readers that, you know, they felt like she was very immature and read more like a young adult than an actual like believable adult character. And I was like, oh, okay, that's really interesting because you know, she's just like based on, you know, myself when I was her age and a lot of like my friends when they were her age. And it was something that I wanted to kind of show that in a lot of like Asian families, we could be like however old and yet still be treated like a teenager, you know. So yeah, that was something that was like quite a conscious thing. And then I wanted her to kind of grow uh, a little bit more as the story progressed and kind of come into her own a little bit more while still being very respectful to her family.
That
Yeah.
makes a lot
I
of
honestly,
sense.
Mhm.
What were you saying?
No, to say I found her just so relatable in that way and how much she leans on her family, even though I honestly can imagine myself being like Maddie when I'm like 26 and still be like, Mom, I killed someone, what do I do?
Yeah, I was like a little bit surprised when you said like you got some comments about the people saying that she's not realistic, because you feel like I read her and I was like, oh, I could totally see her as like someone I know. Like she feels like someone I know, even though like maybe to others she's like really, or not really, but like her family plays a really, really big part of her life. But then I also do know, like, yeah, you did say earlier, like that is pretty or like more common in like Asian culture, like Asian family, where it's like more tight knit, and then like in some sort, sometimes it's like you kind of feel like a little baby, but like not in a negative way, but like it's just that's just how it is.
Yeah, totally.
So one of her favorite things about the book was how Maddie's aunties just really believed in her and supported her from the beginning without question. So why was it so important to show a supportive Asian family without getting rid of the other somewhat, I guess, negative aspects, such as the expectation of like filial piety or like loyalty?
Yeah, oh my gosh, I get so tired of like depictions of Asian families as like this really kind of horrible, they're always like very overbearing and suffocating without showing the benefits of you know, the overbearingness and whatever. Because I feel like, yeah, it is true that a lot of Asian families have, you know, this part of it, but you know, well, also on the other hand, they would do absolutely everything to help you in a time of need. So, and I also feel like with me and my cousins, like if we ever got in trouble, like as we were growing up, the huge extended family would just immediately come and help us. And then later on, they would be like scolding us like crazy and like giving us, you know, a really hard time. But that would come afterwards, like after they helped us. So you know, I just really wanted to show that, well, you know, like Asian families were pretty awesome.
We are awesome.
Yeah. I definitely saw that because I was like, you know, like as you were explaining it, I was like, wow, really, like Asian families are like structured, or like love is shown in a different way than like typical Western norm. And so like externally it would be like a lot of scolding or a lot of like, oh, you could do better, like blah blah blah. But then like when it actually comes down to like the actions, they will like do 110% to support you. And I saw that through like Maddie whenever, like I remember when the aunts are being held hostage, and then they were like, "You should be like Maureen." She's like, she's like, "It's a great job." And they were like scolding her, but then at the same time, like a couple hours earlier, they were literally helping her like bury the dead body. So it's like they really do like love and support her, but it's like just shown in a different way. But yeah. The book club like went really back and forth on Agwan, thinking like, oh, was he dead? Was he really not dead? Or like, could they really get away with like murdering a dead body even though it was not intentional? But did you ever envision an ending where like Maddie's responsibilities for handling with the death were addressed? And do you say to the readers who don't feel super comfortable with them getting it off the hook, like what would you respond?
So yeah, there's like this rule for writing, which is like basically think of the worst thing that can happen to your characters and then do it to them. And so I was kind of following that rule for a while I was like plotting it, but then I kind of got stuck towards the like 2/3 of the way in, because I was like, well, what's the worst thing that can happen to my characters? And it's, you know, they get caught and get sent to prison basically. And I was like, oh no, that's so bad. And if that were to happen, I just don't know how I can get them out of it. And you know, it would just be like a really different story. And I just knew that I wanted people to kind of leave the book feeling happy and like uplifted. So I was like, okay, I just don't see how they can end the book feeling happy and bubbly. You know, if the characters ended up in prison. So I was like, okay, I can't have them like end up in prison. I have to like get them out of it in a different way. So it was more about like trying to achieve a happy ending than, you know, making sure that justice is served in terms of like the law.
It's okay. I like the ending. I'm rooting for I'm rooting for them.
Part of me was like, I hope we can pin it on Tom.
That's like even darker than I thought.
So I know we talked about like your favorite character, but part of what makes this book so fun are also like the side characters like Jackie, Maureen, Tom, of course, all the groomsmen that got hired. Did you have even though what like Tom might not be your favorite character, but did you have which one did you have the most fun writing?
So Tom was really fun because of like his name, and you know it's actually real because in my daughter's class when she was in nursery school, so she was like 2, there was like a Hugh Jackman in her class. It was like a Hugh Jackman Suwandi, and I was like, oh my god. Like they couldn't just name him Hugh, you know, like it's actually literally like Hugh Jackman. So you see like this little 2-year-old like Hugh Jackman, and I was like, oh my god, this is the cutest thing. And so of course I had to have someone like Tom Cruise. And I just had so much fun writing him just because like of his name, and I kind of like I felt like I had to call him Tom Cruise and not like Tom like throughout the book.
So we're really excited to hear that Dial A is going to be a movie on Netflix.
Yay!
Do you have any details that you can share with us when we will potentially find out more information, or what has the process been like for you?
Yeah. So far, what's really exciting was when they told me that like they have hired a screenwriter, and she's Courtney Kang. She worked on How I Met Your Mother and I believe Fresh Off the Boat. So she's like so impressive, and I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I've had several calls with her to talk about like you know the vision for the screenplay, and she's asked like the most amazing questions. Like she's so detailed. Like she was asking like what snacks would like Big Aunt have around her, and like and I was telling her stuff like oh, my mom, like she would splurge on the latest like iPad, but she would literally like wrap it in like saran wrap to protect it instead of like buying a proper screen protector. And I was like, I'll just like buy you one. And she's like, no, why would you waste money on that? This ugly plastic covering I have around it is fine. And she was like, oh my God, that's so great. Like I'm gonna have, details like that just around like the house. So last we spoke, she was just finishing up the script. So, oh my God, I was so excited. And once we have a script, then we can start like casting. So yeah, the casting. I'm so excited and nervous about the casting.
I'm so excited.
I'm like most excited about Nathan being cast.
I was gonna say that too. I'm so excited. He's gonna have so many fangirls.
Do you have any like fan casts? Maybe not specifically like for the like movie, but like did you have any fan casts when you were writing, or just like any visual inspiration?
So I really wanted like Ali Wong as fourth aunt. I just feel like she would be so perfect as fourth aunt. I can totally see her like rocking, like feathery nails.
Yes.
Is this something that we can?
I kind of feel like.
I was gonna say, is this something we can expect to see in 2022, 2023, even later?
Yeah, so they were saying that like as soon as we get like casting going, then it should be pretty fast, because they said like Netflix has a really very efficient process of shooting. So I just have no idea with like and I know that COVID slowed things down a little bit, so I have no idea. But I mean I really hope 2022 or 23 at the latest, I hope. Yeah.
We're so excited regardless. Are you working on anything new right now?
Right now I am working on the sequel to my middle grade fantasy, actually. So it's been really interesting to like kind of shift gears from adult to like children's, and it's actually a really welcome break from writing adult.
That's exciting. One of our book club members was wondering if you can see like a mystery plot line in like your next book, maybe not the middle grade book, like but the book after, or like something thriller as well.
Yeah, so so Ballet for Aunties has a sequel coming out in next March, and we don't have a dead body again because it's like, well, how many people can like these women kill? So, but I can say like this one will have mafia and it's set in England. So that's number 2. And after I wrote that, I actually wrote an adult suspense, which is completely different and it's very, very dark. And it's not at all comedic, so please don't like read it hoping for like lighthearted comedy. But we don't know when the adult suspense will be coming out yet. So hopefully at some point in the near future, we will have like a better schedule for it.
Just curious, is it 2 books in the Dial A universe, or are we expecting more than 2?
I don't know like if I can announce anything yet.
Okay.
But,
Okay.
but hopefully there will be more.
More fun with the aunties.
Yeah, we don't want to part with them yet. We don't want to part with Nathan and Maddie yet. We want to see them have a happy life.
Yes, yes.
So obviously this was like a fun, chaotic story with some mystery in it, but what do you hope for readers to get out of your stories? And do you have any like messages you want to send to them or to members of the book club?
Well, thank you so much for reading it, first of all, and like picking it as your book club read. That's so it's just so unbelievable to me that like a group of people could like choose to read it, like spend their time and money reading it. It's like, thank you so much. That's amazing. I guess first and foremost, I just wanted to entertain people with Dial A for Aunties and kind of leave them feeling happy. That was like the number one thing as I was writing it. I knew that I had in mind. And the other thing was that I just wanted to introduce like Indonesian culture to a wider audience, because I feel like we haven't had that many Indonesian things kind of reach a wider audience outside of Indonesia. So yeah.
Well, we definitely had a lot of fun reading it. It was great entertainment, and we loved it so much. Moving on to a little bit like faster, quick fire questions. Do you have your most anticipated 2021 release? And I know it's like already the year is halfway over. Can't believe it. But then like maybe 2021, or if you can't think of one, then maybe like 2022.
Yeah, the books that I was like looking forward to the most this year, I think they have come out, or they just came out. Like one of them is called The Other Black Girl, and I just finished reading it. I think it came out not too long ago, and it is so good and so disturbing. It's like Get Out, the movie, set in publishing, so I highly recommend it. And it's gonna be a TV series, I think. So yeah.
That sounds so good. I feel like we know so much.
Yeah.
I feel like we don't know that much, but like it's so interesting to see like publishing from a reader's perspective. That sounds so cool from like the other side.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard so many good things about that book, and I have a copy, and I was like, I cannot wait to read it. It sounds so good.
Yeah, the hype is real.
What's a book that you would recommend to everyone, or a book that you read recently, other than the one you just mentioned, that you absolutely loved?
Sorry, hang on, my toddler is here.
So cute.
So cute.
Do you wanna say hi? Do you wanna listen? Here. Okay. I don't know if that's just not gonna fit in your little tiny ear.
So
Sorry.
cute.
Oh my god.
Let me take out my.
The pigtails are so cute too.
Now you
How old is she?
She is 2.5. Hey, can you tell them what's your name? Hey, tell them what's your name. What do you do? Oh, the earbud. Okay. Okay, sorry about that. What was the question?
We're apologize. We love it. Everyone's so excited. But the book we were asking is like, what's a book that you've been loving, or a book you would recommend everyone to read?
So let's see. There was the other black girl. Oh, Version Zero by David Yoon. That was really really good. I can't remember. No, I can. Oh, you can. Okay. That was really good, and that needs to be turned into a movie too. I feel.
Definitely adding it to our TBR. There's a lot of really good food mentioned in Dial A. Do you have your favorite Asian food in general, or just like favorite food in general?
Sorry, do I have what in general?
Do you have a favorite Asian food?
Well, dim sum, and my favorite dim sum place in SGB is Top Island. I think it's on Valley, actually.
I love that place.
Very cool.
Yeah. I feel like it's so underrated. Everyone is always going. I really love Top Island.
Mm-hmm. Everyone's always like, oh, NBC or like the like
Yeah.
Atlantic, but honestly, Top Island's underrated.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it is so underrated.
And then, because we don't want to take up too much more of your time, but do you have a favorite dim sum dish?
So my favorite dish would be like the baked barbecue pork bun, you know, with like the cookie crust on top. Oh, so good. Yeah.
Really, really delicious.
So good. You can never go wrong with any of the dim sum
Yeah.
dishes, but that one is top tier. But thank you so much for being with us today. We had such a great time. We're so excited to have a little surprise guest because she's so adorable. And do you have any last messages you want to send to your readers or anything, lasting words you like to say?
Well, thank you so much again for reading it, and I'm just so happy and like just so honored by all of like the feedback that I've had, especially from fellow Asian readers. So thank you. I'm just so touched.
Thank you for watching if you are here with us today, and join us next month as we read Darius the Great Is Not Okay, and in August we'll be reading She Who Became the Sun. So make sure to join our Facebook, our Discord, follow us on social media, and we'll see you next time.
Yay!
Bye!
Bye.